There's a massive shift happening across the world right now, and most of us can feel it. For centuries, religion ruled our minds, dictated our culture, and shaped the way we lived, often without us even realizing it. But something changed. People stopped accepting stories just because they're old. They stopped following rules just because everyone else does. They finally started asking the one question that religion hates the most: why? Why should we believe without proof? Why do old books control modern lives? Why do we pray for results we could get faster through knowledge, science, and actual effort? And as those questions multiplied, blind faith started cracking. This rise of atheism isn't a trend, a phase, or a rebellion. It's a reaction, a natural response to a world flooded with information, logic, science, and lived experience. People aren't losing belief, they're gaining clarity. They're not rejecting spirituality, they're rejecting control, fear, and outdated explanations. Humanity is leveling up from superstition to understanding, from obedience to critical thinking, from being followers to being thinkers. In today's video, we'll break down exactly why atheism is rising across communities, countries, and generations, and why this shift might be the biggest upgrade our species has ever made. Buckle up. Atheism didn't rise because people randomly woke up and said, "Yo, God canceled." It's way deeper than that. For centuries, most humans didn't even get the choice to question belief systems. Religion was the default operating system installed at birth, no uninstall button available. But the moment humans started accessing free knowledge instead of filtered teachings, something shifted. People finally realized they didn't have to inherit beliefs like property. They could challenge them, test them, or completely reject them. The real turning point was education plus science. Once humans understood how lightning happens, we didn't need Zeus throwing tantrums in the sky. Once we decoded viruses and evolution, the idea of invisible punishments and magical creation started sounding outdated. Like running Windows XP in 2026. Science didn't replace God with another God. It replaced superstition with experiments, evidence, and repeatable results. And humans started trusting microscopes more than miracles. Then came the internet, and it changed everything again. Religion thrives on isolation, one village, one belief, one story repeated until it sounds like truth. But the internet connected billions of brains instantly. Suddenly a kid in a small town could watch a lecture from Harvard, debate ideas on Reddit, Google historical contradictions, and realize, wait, belief systems disagree with each other, contradict science, and never update. Atheism spread because information spread. You can't keep people scared of hell once they know the concept was invented long after humans existed. And most importantly, people got tired of being controlled. Many religions tried to dictate food, clothes, marriage, sexuality, education, politics, everything. Instead of guiding humanity, they tried owning it. That triggered a silent rebellion. Not a dramatic revolution, just individuals slowly choosing logic over faith, asking questions instead of kneeling for answers. The rise of atheism is literally the rise of human independence, people choosing thinking over believing. Cracks in the narrative. Another major reason atheism is blowing up is because modern humans finally started spotting contradictions that were always hiding in plain sight. For centuries, religious stories were treated as literal truth, miracles, talking snakes, sky kings watching your every move. But the moment people learned history, archaeology, and logic, they realized these stories don't line up with reality. If holy books were truly universal truth, they wouldn't clash with each other, rewrite themselves between cultures, or need constant reinterpretation to survive in the modern world. A belief that needs updating every century clearly wasn't based on solid facts to begin with. Smart people noticed that gap and said, "Yeah, I'm out." Then there's the morality mismatch. Religions claim to teach kindness and compassion, yet history books are packed with wars, discrimination, caste systems, witch hunts, crusades, rigid rules, and punishment disguised as righteousness. When humans see believers fighting over which God is real, using faith as a tool to dominate or divide, they start questioning whether the problem is the followers or the belief itself. Atheism rose because people got tired of watching hate dressed up as holiness. If a system claims to be moral but fails to act moral, people will naturally walk away from it. And we can't ignore science exposing gaps religion can't fill. Every decade, new discoveries drop like mic drops: evolution, quantum physics, neuroscience. We now understand how consciousness forms, how stars explode, how life adapts, how diseases behave. And the more answers science gives, the fewer mysteries religion can hide behind. Science keeps expanding the light, religion keeps pushing shadows. People realized they don't need a supernatural explanation when a natural explanation is right there, testable and repeatable. Atheism isn't anti-wonder, it's pro-truth. We're still curious, just not gullible. Finally, the rise of personal experience killed blind faith. Earlier generations believed because their parents believed. Now, people experiment with meditation, therapy, books, travel, education, and real-world struggle. They realize their life improves through effort, not rituals, through skills, not prayers, through community, not worship. When results come from work instead of wishes, faith naturally loses its power. Atheism grew because reality delivered more than religion ever promised. Freedom beats fear. One of the biggest reasons atheism is rising is because people finally stopped living under fear. For centuries, religion controlled humans with, or else. Believe, or else you'll burn. Follow rules, or else you'll be cursed. Obey priests, or else God will punish your family. It wasn't faith, it was emotional blackmail disguised as morality. But modern minds don't buy that anymore. When you understand psychology, fear loses its magic trick. You don't stay loyal to a belief just because someone promises eternal torture if you don't. As society upgraded, humans realized something wild. If a God truly existed and cared about humans, it wouldn't need fear marketing, holy threats, guilt manipulation, or paid middlemen. Truth shouldn't need sales tactics. Faith shouldn't need surveillance. Morality shouldn't require a supernatural CCTV camera watching 24/7. Once people saw this, the hold religion had on them started slipping. Fear-based systems collapse the moment people learn to think instead of tremble. Then there's freedom of identity. Religion always tried to lock humans into boxes. Who you can love, what job is allowed, what clothes you wear, which gender roles you're stuck in, who you can marry, who's pure, or impure. The moment individuals realized that a single belief system doesn't deserve that much control over their lives, they walked away. Humans want to define themselves, not inherit scripts written thousands of years ago by people who didn't even have electricity or basic science. Add to that global diversity. A kid born in India grows up with Hindu mythology. Born in America, Christianity. Born in Saudi, Islam. Born in Greece, Orthodox. Same child, different continent, completely different, one true God. Once people noticed that religion was basically geography, not truth, atheism clicked. If God were universal, belief would be the same everywhere, but it's not. That inconsistency exposes the illusion. And here's the final punch. People realized they're capable of building meaning themselves. Relationships, purpose, creativity, knowledge, career. These things give life direction without fictional middlemen. Atheism isn't emptiness. It's freedom, freedom from control, fear, superstition, and outdated rules that no longer serve modern life. Human brains evolved, belief systems didn't. So people left tradition behind and upgraded to reality. Breaking free from fear. Atheism is rising because people finally broke up with fear. For most of history, religion was basically a rulebook backed by threats. Believe what we say or bad things will happen. Follow rituals or suffer consequences. Don't question anything or you're doomed forever. That worked when humans didn't understand how the world functioned. But once we started understanding science, psychology, and our own brain, the whole, believe or burn, script stopped landing. People realized that any system needing threats to stay relevant must not be built on solid truth. Another huge factor is that humans are obsessed with freedom, real freedom, not the illusion of choice. Religion always tried to get into every corner of human life, from who you love, to what you eat, to who you marry, even what thoughts you can have. As societies opened up, people figured out that identity shouldn't be dictated by old books or ancient rules written before microscopes existed. When they saw they could create their own values and ethics without copying what someone said thousands of years ago, leaving religion became the obvious choice. You don't need a spiritual boss to define your life when your brain is fully capable of doing that job. The internet also exposed a truth people used to avoid. Religion depends heavily on geography and upbringing. Most people simply inherit a belief system like they inherit a surname. If you were born in India, you'd follow one faith, born in Pakistan another, born in America something totally different. That randomness opened everyone's eyes. If the truth changes based on which hospital you popped out in, then maybe none of those truths are universal. Religion stopped feeling like a divine message and started looking like a cultural habit. Once you notice that, it's impossible to unsee. But the deepest reason atheism is rising is because humans finally realized life doesn't need supernatural training wheels. Joy, meaning, love, morality, purpose, all of it comes from human experience, not invisible forces. You make friends, fall in love, build skills, chase goals, suffer losses, bounce back, and grow, all without a cosmic referee scoring your choices. People saw that real progress comes from effort, not blessings. Science cures disease, education changes lives, and hard work pays bills, not prayers. Once reality is enough, myths start fading on their own. The rise of critical thinking. Atheism is rising because humans finally got tired of outsourcing their thinking. For thousands of years, people were taught that answers come from outside: scriptures, priests, gurus, holy men, anyone except themselves. But modern minds realized the real power move is taking full responsibility for your own thoughts. When people learned how to analyze, research, question, verify, and experiment, they stopped accepting anything just because someone said so with confidence. Critical thinking spread faster than any holy message ever did. Once you get addicted to logic, blind faith just feels outdated and lazy. People want evidence, not emotional stories with zero receipts. Another factor is the massive exposure to diverse beliefs. Earlier, you could grow up believing your religion was the ultimate truth because nobody ever challenged it. Today, you can see religions from all around the world with one tap on your phone. And the crazy part? Every religion claims it's the only correct one. When billions of people confidently disagree, it makes you ask a very rational question. What are the odds that my belief is magically right and all others are wrong? That realization itself is a gateway to atheism. The internet didn't kill religion, comparison did. Seeing multiple belief systems side by side exposes how inconsistent the whole thing is. People also started noticing how often religions fail their own promises. They say faith protects the good, but bad things still happen to good people. They say God answers prayers, but the world keeps running like a natural system, not a supernatural one. They say believers are blessed, yet most progress is created by scientists, engineers, doctors, thinkers, and ordinary humans grinding in the real world. Modern society made people wake up to a brutal truth. If miracles were real, hospitals wouldn't need ICUs, and disasters wouldn't hit temples, churches, and mosques. Atheism grew when humans realized the universe runs on laws of physics, not favoritism. And finally, atheism is rising because it aligns with how modern humans want to live: free, informed, and honest with themselves. Religion promises answers, but atheism offers something even better: the courage to admit we don't know everything yet, but we're working on it. Instead of filling gaps with mythology, atheists choose curiosity, discovery, and progress. It's not about disrespecting tradition, it's about refusing to settle for outdated explanations when reality keeps giving better ones. The rise of atheism is literally the rise of humans taking control of their own story instead of letting someone else write it for them. Morality without myth. Atheism is also spreading because people finally realized that morality doesn't belong to religion. For decades, the narrative was simple: if you don't believe in God, you'll turn evil. But real life exposed the lie. Some of the kindest, smartest, Most ethical humans on Earth don't follow any religion, and plenty of people who claim to be holy do terrible stuff. Once humans saw kindness happen without commandments and cruelty happen despite faith, the connection between religion and morality snapped. People understood that ethics come from empathy and logic, not fear of punishment or promise of reward. Atheism rose because morality became a human responsibility, not a divine download. Another reason atheism is booming is because younger generations refuse to be emotionally manipulated. Earlier, religion was welded into families, culture, and identity. Saying you don't believe could get you shamed, rejected, or worse. But Gen Z and millennials are built different, they question everything. They want receipts, not sermons. They don't respect authority unless it earns respect. When religious leaders were caught being hypocrites, preaching purity, practicing corruption, trust broke. Once the gatekeepers lost credibility, the whole system started wobbling. Young minds choose honesty over tradition every single time. Technology also plays a low-key killer role. AI, space telescopes, genetic editing, neuroscience. Every new discovery pushes the God gap further back. 1,000 years ago, humans used gods to explain eclipses, earthquakes, thunder, sickness. Today, we can literally simulate universes, model evolution, and scan brains in real time. What religion called miracles, science calls cause and effect. And every time science explains something religion used to claim, more people switch teams from believing to understanding. Knowledge upgrades reality faster than belief can update excuses. But the biggest shift is emotional. Religion once gave people community, belonging, and meaning. Atheism used to lack that. Today it's the opposite. Atheists find connection online, build movements, debate openly, share struggles, learn together, and create purpose without supernatural permission. The rise of atheism is also the rise of self-worth, the belief that your life matters because you exist, not because a deity signed your birth certificate. Humans are choosing authenticity over inherited scripts. Reality speaking louder than religion. Atheism is rising because reality became louder than religion. For centuries, belief systems mixed themselves into every crisis, floods, droughts, famines, epidemics, and claimed supernatural causes. Pray harder, give offerings, please the gods, that was the standard response. But modern humans watched something else happen. When disaster strikes today, it's scientists, doctors, volunteers, researchers, engineers, rescue teams, and everyday people who show up, not divine intervention. Data beats doctrine every time. When vaccines stop disease and prayers don't, the lesson is impossible to ignore. People realized that the universe runs on natural laws, not divine moods, and that shift powered atheism more than any philosophy ever could. On top of that, humans stopped accepting suffering as destiny. Old belief systems convinced people to tolerate injustice, poverty, discrimination, caste systems, and inequality because God has a plan. But this generation refuses to be patient with pain. If something is unfair, they call it out. If something is broken, they try to fix it. When young people saw that real change comes from activism, science, education, and technology, not rituals, they naturally drifted away from institutions that preach patience instead of progress. Atheism is rising because people want solutions, not excuses. Another quiet but powerful reason is that more people are openly coming out as atheists, which makes others feel less alone. 50 years ago, doubting your religion was a secret shame. Today, questioning belief is normal. Celebrities, scientists, educators, authors, creators, even everyday people speak openly about not believing in gods. The moment one person breaks the silence, 10 more gain courage. Atheism spreads socially not because it's trendy, but because humans mimic confidence, and being honest about disbelief is no longer taboo everywhere. And finally, atheism is rising because humans evolved emotionally. Religion often came from fear. Fear of death, fear of the unknown, fear of meaninglessness. But modern humans face these questions head-on. Instead of inventing comfort stories, they embrace uncertainty and build meaning by living fully, not waiting for another world after this one. Accepting mortality doesn't make life darker, it makes it precious. That emotional upgrade, choosing courage over fairy tales, is the final push powering the rise of atheism. Humans are finally mature enough to say, we don't know everything, and that's okay. We'll figure it out ourselves. The hidden cost of blind faith. A massive reason atheism is spreading is because people finally realized blind faith comes with a hidden price tag. Religion always sells itself as comfort and guidance, but beneath that, it demands heavy payment, mentally, emotionally, socially, and sometimes financially. You're expected to follow rules without understanding them, perform rituals that consume hours of your life, and donate money to temples, churches, or mosques that already operate like mega industries. For generations, families poured fortunes into belief systems hoping for blessings in return, yet their real-world conditions never change. Modern humans ran the math and noticed something wild. Effort brings results, rituals don't. Once that clicks, faith feels like a bad investment. Blind belief also steals your autonomy. You stop thinking for yourself because someone else already wrote your manual. You don't decide what is right or wrong, a book decides for you. You don't question, you obey. You don't explore ideas, you stay inside a narrative. And when people break out of that cage, it's not just intellectual freedom, it's personal liberation. More people are refusing to outsource their critical thinking to priests or scriptures, and that independence naturally pushes them toward atheism. Another cost is emotional guilt. Religion teaches that everything has a moral score attached to it: your thoughts, your food, your body, your doubts, your desires. People start judging themselves for being human. Atheism rises when people realize guilt doesn't make you good, empathy does. You don't become moral by living scared. You become moral by understanding the impact of your actions. Letting go of guilt-based living feels like taking off a backpack full of bricks you didn't even realize you were carrying. And then there's the biggest cost: time. Billions of people spend years praying, fasting, performing ceremonies, hoping for divine upgrades. But the truth is brutal and liberating. Your life only moves when you move. Your skills grow only if you practice. Your finances improve only if you work. Your relationships get better only if you communicate. Humans woke up to the fact that the hours and energy invested in prayer could actually be spent building something real. Once people see how much they lost by waiting for invisible help, atheism stops being scary and becomes the default. Finally, there's the social cost: being forced to pretend. Many people follow religion just to stay accepted, not because they believe anything. That silent burden kills authenticity. But society is slowly shifting to a place where honesty is valued more than conformity. The moment people feel safe to admit, "I don't believe this anymore," atheism multiplies, not because it's fashionable, but because it's finally allowed. Exposure of hypocrisy. Another huge driver behind the rise of atheism is exposure to hypocrisy. People are noticing that many religious institutions do not live by the values they preach. You hear speeches about simplicity, yet temples and churches drip with gold. You hear about compassion, yet religion divides people into castes, classes, and chosen versus rejected. You hear about honesty while religious leaders get caught in scams, controversies, and power games. When the so-called moral authorities can't follow their own rulebook, the rulebook itself loses credibility. Humans today have a lower tolerance for fakeness, they demand authenticity. And when religion can't deliver it, people walk out. This generation watches actions louder than words. They've seen politicians weaponize religion to stay in power. They've seen wars fought in the name of God. They've seen families break apart over belief systems that were supposed to unite people. Religion promised peace but often fueled conflict. Once that pattern became obvious, faith stopped feeling like a solution and started looking like part of the problem. Atheism rose not because people wanted chaos, but because they wanted clarity, a world where morality is based on reason and humanity, not ancient orders and unquestioned hierarchy. The internet amplified this transformation. It became impossible to hide religious contradictions. One viral video can expose a fraudulent guru, a corrupt priest, or a discriminatory doctrine. 20 years ago, exposing hypocrisy was dangerous. Today, one person with a phone can challenge a thousand-year-old institution. And every time hypocrisy gets caught, another person starts questioning, another belief cracks, another mind shifts toward atheism. Nothing destroys blind faith faster than transparency. But the core shift is internal. People don't want borrowed values anymore. They want to choose their ethics based on logic, empathy, and real-world consequences, not ancient authority. If someone is kind, fair, honest, respectful, and compassionate without religion, then religion can't claim a monopoly on morality anymore. When the illusion of moral superiority collapses, atheism becomes the natural upgrade, not rebellion, but evolution.